The people who actually retire comfortably before most of their friends, the ones quietly waking up at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday with no alarm clock, no financial panic, and no boss texting them during breakfast, they all tend to make one strange move in the final year before retirement. They stop buying stuff. Not necessities. They still pay the electric bill. They still buy groceries. They're not sitting in the dark eating canned beans to save money. I'm talking about specific purchases that middle-class workers keep making right up until retirement, while self-made retirees suddenly start avoiding them like they're radioactive. And here's the weird part. Most people think the final year before retirement is when you finally reward yourself. New SUV, big vacation, kitchen remodel, expensive hobbies because you earned it. But after watching how this actually plays out over and over again, I noticed something completely different. The retirees who stay rich after quitting work, they become incredibly hard to sell to. They stop chasing convenience. They stop chasing status. They stop buying emotional relief disguised as products. Meanwhile, the people who struggle 5 years into retirement are often still spending like they're trying to impress coworkers they'll never see again. So today, we're breaking down the 6 things self-made retirees quietly stopped buying in the final year before they walked away from work for good. Some of these are going to sound obvious at first. A couple of them are going to sting a little because you probably bought one recently. And number one is the silent purchase habit that quietly destroys more retirements than bad investments ever do. Because the biggest threat to retiring richer usually isn't the stock market. It's the spending habits people refuse to let go of before the paycheck disappears. Welcome to the channel. I am Granny Presh. I break down the real math and real behaviors behind retirement financial freedom without the fake luxury nonsense or get-rich-quick fantasy. A few months ago, I was talking to a retired couple at a diner, both in their late 60s, both retired early, both completely relaxed about money in a way you almost never see anymore. And I noticed something strange. Neither of them looked rich.
No luxury watches, no flashy car outside, no designer clothes. The husband was wearing the same faded baseball cap through the entire conversation, like he'd owned it since 2009. But then the conversation shifted to retirement. No debt, house fully paid off, investment portfolio still growing, kids helped through college. And according to them, they actually spend less now than they did in the final years before retirement, while feeling happier. That caught my attention. So I started paying closer attention to people who retired comfortably, without inheriting money or selling some billion-dollar company. And over again, I noticed the same pattern. The final year before retirement changes the way self-made retirees spend money. Most workers keep buying things that make them feel successful. But self-made retirees start buying based on one question only. Will this still matter after the paycheck stops? And the people who answer that question honestly usually end up a whole lot richer because of it. Number 6. Brand new cars right before retirement. This one destroys people quietly. A lot of workers hit their final year and suddenly decide they deserve the fully loaded SUV. $900 monthly payment, giant touchscreen, seats that can practically massage your soul. But most self-made retirees stop buying new cars completely in that final stretch. Because they know the moment retirement starts, the car stops being a status symbol and starts becoming a monthly expense sitting in the driveway, losing value. I knew one retired engineer worth a couple million who drove a 12-year-old Lexus with cracked cup holders. Meanwhile, his neighbor upgraded trucks every 3 years and ended up delaying retirement at 67. Number 5, convenience spending. Here's what actually happens when people get close to retirement. They're burned out, so they start paying to avoid effort. Food delivery, daily takeout, house cleaners, random Amazon purchases because they're too tired to think. But self-made retirees start moving the opposite direction because they realize retirement gives you something more valuable than convenience: time. And number 4, trendy home upgrades. This one gets people badly. People spend $40,000 remodeling kitchens they were perfectly happy with 6 months earlier because retirement makes them panic about creating the perfect life. But wealthy retirees renovate for function,
not for applause from people visiting twice a year. Number 3, status purchases, designed to prove they made it. This is where the shift becomes psychological, because the final year before retirement forces people to confront a very uncomfortable question. Who am I when my job title disappears? And a lot of people answer that question by spending. Luxury watches, designer clothes, expensive vacations posted online mainly so other people can see them. Even oversized homes that feel more like trophies than places to live. Here's what actually happens, though. Self-made retirees who stay wealthy stop trying to look successful right before retirement because they realize something most workers never fully understand. Once the paycheck stops, nobody is handing out awards for appearing rich. In fact, the retirees with the strongest finances are usually the hardest to identify in public. You'd walk past them at Costco and never think twice. Meanwhile, the people desperately trying to maintain the appearance of success often end up trapped by it financially. And this is why the last year before retirement matters so much psychologically. Some people spend that year building freedom. Others spend it building an image they can no longer afford to maintain after work ends. That difference changes everything. Now, let me show you the math, because this part is honestly brutal. Imagine someone enters the final year before retirement and decides to do 3 small upgrades. A new SUV with a $950 monthly payment, a $45,000 kitchen remodel, and an extra $1,200 a month in convenience spending because work has them exhausted. Individually, none of those feel retirement destroying. But together, that's roughly $2,150 a month leaving the household before retirement even begins. Now, stretch that across just the first 10 years of retirement. That's over $258,000 gone. And that's before you factor in investment growth that money could have generated if it stayed invested, earning 7 or 8% annually. With compounding, you're potentially looking at $500,000 of lost retirement wealth created almost entirely in the final few working years. That's the part people miss. Most retirements are not destroyed by one catastrophic financial decision. They're slowly weakened by lifestyle inflation right before the paycheck disappears. And the really dangerous part is that these purchases feel emotionally justified at the time. I worked hard. I deserve this. One last upgrade. That sentence has probably delayed more retirements than the stock market ever has. And number 1, this is the habit underneath all the others. The biggest thing self-made retirees stopped buying before they retired richer was emotional relief disguised as spending. This is the real villain underneath the whole list. Because most late career spending isn't actually about the product, it's about stress. People are exhausted from decades of work, so they start spending money to manufacture tiny moments of escape. Random online shopping after bad work days, impulse vacations they can't comfortably afford, expensive hobbies they barely use, upgrades bought mainly because life feels emotionally heavy. Does this sound familiar? Here's what self-made retirees figured out before most people do. If you use spending to emotionally survive your working life, you'll accidentally carry that habit straight into retirement. And retirement becomes dangerous when there's no paycheck left to support emotional spending patterns built during stressful working years. The retirees who stay wealthy usually make one mental shift before they quit. They stop asking, what do I deserve after working this hard? And they start asking, what kind of life will actually make me feel peaceful without needing to constantly buy relief from it? That question changes everything. Because once someone no longer needs spending to emotionally compensate for their life, wealth tends to grow very quietly after that. And honestly, I'm guilty of some of these too, especially convenience spending.
There were periods where I'd justify almost every purchase with, I'm busy, I'm tired, I'll make more money later. And individually, none of the purchases felt reckless. That's what makes this stuff dangerous. Retirement-destroying habits rarely feel dramatic while they're happening. They feel normal. A slightly nicer car, a few more subscriptions, ordering food because cooking feels annoying after work, buying things because you want a quick emotional reset after a stressful week. I've done it. Most people have. Which is why I don't think this conversation should be about guilt or extreme frugality. The goal isn't to live like a monk. The goal is to stop accidentally building a lifestyle that requires constant spending just to feel okay.
Because the self-made retirees who stay richest usually aren't the people who deprived themselves of everything. They're the people who learned how to enjoy life without needing spending to carry the emotional weight of it. That's a completely different skill. And it's probably one of the most financially important skills a future retiree can build before the paycheck stops forever. So now I'm curious, which one of these hit closest to home for you? The new car temptation? Convenience spending? Trying to reward yourself after stressful work years? Or buying things mainly because they make you feel successful for a moment? Be honest in the comments, because a lot of people are quietly dealing with the exact same habits right now. And honestly, awareness is probably half the battle. Because once you start noticing the difference between purchases that improve your life and purchases that temporarily help you escape your life, your financial decisions start changing automatically. That's when retirement planning stops being just math. It becomes psychology. And the people who retire richest usually aren't the ones who earned the highest salaries. They're the ones who learned how to separate happiness from constant consumption before retirement ever started. If this video helped you think differently about retirement and spending, hit the like button and subscribe, because we talk about this stuff every day. I'll see you in the next video.